Have you ever stopped to wonder why, of all days, it had to be today, right now, this exact moment, that something brought you here? It wasn't by chance. While the world sleeps and the rush of the day finally slows down, something is moving inside you. Something that has been trying to get your attention for weeks, months, maybe even years. The truth no one tells you is this: you're not searching for answers, you're finally ready to recognize what your soul has known for a long time. And tonight, unlike any other, marks ground zero of your spiritual transformation. Let me tell you something that goes against everything you were taught: you don't need more information, more courses, or complicated techniques to find peace and purpose. In fact, the more you chase these external solutions, the further you drift from what truly matters. Awakening doesn't happen when you collect knowledge, it happens when you stop looking outside and finally turn inward, where all the power has always been, patiently waiting for you to pay attention. And what if I told you that in the next few minutes you'll understand why everything in your life happened exactly the way it did? That there is an invisible intelligence orchestrating every meeting, every challenge, every moment of pain and joy, everything working together for your spiritual rebirth. What you're about to discover isn't theory or abstract philosophy. These are subtle signs from the universe that are finally going to make sense, connecting the dots in a way that will completely change how you see yourself and the reality around you. Tonight marks the end of who you thought you were, and the powerful beginning of who you truly are. There is a truth few people understand, but once it's revealed, it changes everything. The universe isn't out there randomly dealing with your life, it's a perfect reflection of what's happening inside you. Every situation that bothers you, every person who crosses your path with a lesson disguised as a problem, are signs from the soul trying to show you inner patterns you haven't been able to see yet. It's like looking in the mirror in the morning and complaining about the image, without realizing that you're the one standing in front of it. Think with me for a moment: how many times have you found yourself repeating the same situations, attracting the same kinds of relationships, or facing obstacles that all seem strangely familiar? This repetition isn't bad luck or some cosmic conspiracy, it's reality nudging you, asking for a spiritual transformation that begins when you finally realize that change doesn't come from the outside in. That unbearable boss might be mirroring your own difficulty in setting boundaries, while that suffocating relationship may be revealing how often you abandon yourself just to please others. What's most fascinating about all of this is that the moment you change the way you look at things, the things themselves start to change right before your eyes. This isn't magic, it's an awakening of consciousness. When you stop fighting the mirror and start working on the one being reflected, the world around you responds in ways that feel almost unexplainable. But before understanding how to do this in practice, something even deeper needs to happen first. Most people spend their entire lives immersed in their own thoughts, believing that those thoughts are who they truly are. Yet there's a profound difference between you and that voice in your head that never stops talking. This inner awakening begins when you realize there's a silent observer within you, a presence that can watch thoughts pass by like clouds in the sky, without clinging to them or becoming them. It's like discovering that you are not the movie playing on the screen, you are the screen where everything unfolds. When someone criticizes you and that rush of emotions takes over, there's a tiny space between what happens and how you react, and that space is where true freedom lives. Soul and consciousness work together in this place. While thoughts shout, "You've been offended, react now," this deeper part of you simply observes, calm and grounded, knowing it's just another wave passing through the ocean of your existence. The ability to observe without reacting automatically is what separates those who live on autopilot from those who are truly awake. Spiritual rebirth doesn't happen when you learn new techniques or gather more information. It happens when you stop identifying with every thought that appears in your mind. Imagine your thoughts as WhatsApp messages arriving every second. You don't have to reply to all of them, you don't have to believe all of them. You can simply let them be and consciously choose which ones deserve your attention. This simple yet revolutionary realization opens the door to something that usually only reveals itself when we finally stop running. There's a reason why so many deep realizations happen at night, when the world slows down and the constant noise of daily life finally eases. During the day, your mind is too busy answering emails, solving problems, meeting deadlines. But when night falls and you finally sit in silence, it's as if a door opens to something greater. The subtle signs of the universe that went unnoticed all day suddenly become clear, because now you're truly present and able to listen. This kind of deep awakening rarely happens in the middle of rush and pressure. It needs space, quiet, that moment when you're not trying to be productive or impress anyone. That's why powerful insights show up in the shower, before sleep, or during those moments of contemplation when you stare out the window without thinking about anything in particular. The logical mind, the one that spends the day working with numbers and making practical decisions, finally relaxes and allows something more subtle to rise from within. The truth is, you don't discover this kind of understanding through pure logic. You recognize it when you're in a state of genuine openness. It's like tuning a radio. During the day, you're locked into busy frequencies full of noise and interference, but at night, you can pick up clearer, deeper signals. And once you begin to grasp this, you realize that these revelations are not just intellectual. What's happening inside you is far more complex and fascinating than it seems on the surface. There's a deep layer where psychology, emotion, and spirituality meet, at a point science is still trying to fully understand. That feeling of emptiness you try to fill with achievements, relationships, shopping, or endless distractions is actually a call from your own essence asking for attention. Deep spiritual healing begins when you stop looking for peace outside and realize it has always been available within your own field of awareness, simply waiting for you to look in the right direction. Think about how many times you've achieved something you were sure would make you happy, a dream job, a perfect relationship, an amazing trip, and yet, a few weeks later, that emptiness returned as if it had never left. This happens because you're searching outside for something that can only be found within. It's like trying to quench your thirst with seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Introspection and inner growth reveal that everything you truly need already exists inside you, it was just hidden beneath layers and layers of conditioning. When you finally understand that reality is shaped by where you place your attention and by how you interpret events, not by the events themselves, something shifts deeply in the way you experience life. Two people can go through the exact same situation, and one comes out broken while the other comes out stronger. The difference isn't in what happened, but in how each person processed it internally. This understanding isn't just philosophical, it's extremely practical and can be applied in everyday life in very simple ways. Most people spend their entire lives chasing external validation, waiting for someone to recognize their worth, for something outside themselves to finally prove they are good enough, smart enough, or deserving enough. But this endless pursuit is like chasing the horizon. No matter how far you walk, it always stays the same distance away. True awakening of consciousness begins when you turn your attention inward and start observing the observer, watching your own mental patterns without judgment, simply with genuine curiosity. Imagine your attention as a powerful spotlight that illuminates whatever you point it at. All your life, you were taught to aim that spotlight outward, at other people's bodies, at the money in your bank account, at likes on social media. When you finally turn that spotlight inward, shining it on your thoughts, your emotions, and your automatic reaction patterns, you discover an entire universe that was there all along, waiting to be explored. This simple shift in the direction of your attention is the first real step towards spiritual transformation. What's most interesting is that, when you do this, you begin to notice things that once went completely unnoticed, that recurring thought that quietly sabotages your decisions, that emotion you've always tried to suppress but that keeps coming back, those signals from the soul you ignored because you were too busy looking outward. This isn't about adding more things to your life, it's about removing the noise and finally paying attention to what has always been there. And when you do this consistently, something profound begins to reveal itself. Meditation isn't the mystical, complicated practice many people imagine, where you have to sit in a lotus position for hours trying to empty your mind while incense burns around you. In reality, it's something much simpler and more powerful, sitting in silence and observing the natural flow of your thoughts without trying to control, change, or judge them. It's like sitting on the bank of a river, watching the current flow by. Each thought is just another leaf carried by the water, and you don't need to jump in after it. When you start practicing this regularly, even if it's just for a few minutes a day, something extraordinary happens. You create a space between the stimulus and the response, between what happens and how you react. That tiny space is where all your freedom lives, because it's there that you realize you're not required to jump into every anxious thought, every worry, every story your mind loves to make up. Spiritual rebirth often begins in this quiet moment, when you finally stop fighting yourself and simply observe, with kindness and curiosity. Breathing slowly, sitting comfortably, noticing thoughts arise like clouds in the sky, letting them pass without grabbing onto any of them, and above all, realizing that there is a deeper you witnessing all of this. This simple practice, known by our ancestors for thousands of years, may be the most powerful tool we have to access the part of you that exists beyond the constant mental noise. And when you connect with this inner silence, you begin to sense that there is a much deeper philosophy behind it all. There is a revolutionary idea that ties all of this together. The universe is not an external force separate from you, throwing random situations into your life like a cosmic game of dice. It is, in fact, an extension of your own consciousness, a perfect reflection of what is happening behind the scenes of your mind and your heart. When you truly understand this, not just intellectually, but deep within your lived experience, that desperate need to control the outside world simply loses its meaning. Real change always begins from the inside out, never the other way around, and the subtle signs you've been receiving from the universe are actually messages from your own soul, trying to guide you back home. It's as if you spent years shouting into a dark well, asking for light, without realizing that you yourself are the source of the light you've been seeking. Inner awakening happens the moment you stop looking upward, waiting for someone or something to save you, and start looking inward, where all the power has always been. And this understanding radically changes how you move through life, because now you know you are not a victim of circumstances, you are the conscious or unconscious creator of your experience. Every thought you feed, every belief you hold, every emotion you allow to dominate your inner state is shaping the reality you experience moment by moment. But there is one crucial distinction that needs to be very clear before moving forward. Most people confuse thinking with awareness, believing they are the same thing. But this confusion is exactly what keeps so many people trapped in an endless cycle of unnecessary suffering. Thinking is that voice in your head that never stops, commenting on everything, judging everything, creating stories about the past and worries about the future. Awareness, on the other hand, is something much broader and quieter. It is the space where those thoughts appear and disappear, like the sky where clouds come and go without ever staining the deep blue that is always there. When you think, I need to be successful to be valued, that is just a thought passing by, a story your mind created based on old conditioning and beliefs you absorbed throughout your life. But the awareness that notices this thought, that sees it arise and eventually fade away, that is your true nature. It is the part of you that never changes, that was there when you were 5 years old and will still be there until your last breath. Real spiritual transformation happens when you stop identifying with every thought that passes through your mind and begin to recognize yourself as the timeless awareness that witnesses them. Imagine your thoughts as text messages arriving on your phone all day long. Some are useful, some are spam, some make you anxious, others make you smile. You are not required to respond to all of them, and you are not required to believe all of them. You can simply observe them from a distance and consciously choose which ones to engage with. When you create this space between yourself and your thoughts, you realize you have far more freedom than you ever imagined, and this realization opens doors most people do not even know exist. When someone comes into contact with these ideas for the first time, especially in a quiet moment like this one, something interesting often happens. There is a strange sense of recognition, as if you already knew all of this somewhere deep inside but forgot along the way. Some people feel an unexplained sense of peace, others feel a kind of inner expansion, as if the boundaries that defined who they are begin to soften and lose their rigidity. It is not exactly happiness in the usual sense. It is something more subtle and lasting, like a door that has been locked for years finally starting to open. Some people even feel a certain initial discomfort, because these truths shake mental structures that have been there for so long they seemed like a permanent part of reality. It is like discovering that a wall in your house is not made of concrete but just wallpaper, and on the other side there is an entire room you never knew existed. Deep spiritual healing sometimes begins precisely with this discomfort, with the feeling that everything you believed about yourself may be just a story, and stories can be rewritten. The purpose of all this isn't to give you ready-made answers to memorize and repeat to others, but to awaken a different kind of perception within you, a sharper awareness of your own inner experience. It's about inviting you to question things you've never questioned before, to notice patterns that were always there but went unseen, to feel that quiet, positive restlessness that comes when you sense you're on the edge of discovering something meaningful. And when all these pieces start coming together, you begin to see the bigger picture that's been forming from the very beginning. So, after everything we've explored up to this point, it becomes clear that this journey was never about searching for answers outside yourself, in books, videos, or the words of any enlightened guru. The invitation has always been for you to look inward, into that vast and unexplored territory between your ears and within your chest, where all the wisdom you need already exists, simply waiting for you to slow down enough to hear it. The universe you've been trying so hard to understand isn't millions of light years away, it's expressing itself through every breath you take, every heartbeat, every moment of awareness you're experiencing right now. The idea that the universe mirrors your consciousness isn't empty poetry or shallow philosophy, it's a practical principle you can test in your life immediately. When you change how you relate to your thoughts and emotions, when you stop resisting what is and begin observing with genuine curiosity, the world around you quite literally starts to respond in ways that feel almost magical. But it isn't magic. It's simply the natural law that your inner reality shapes your outer experience, and awakening consciousness is nothing more than waking up to this fundamental truth. And perhaps the most important part of all is understanding that this insight usually arrives when you're receptive, calm, and present, exactly as you likely are right now. It's no coincidence that you ended up here tonight, and it's not random that you're feeling what you're feeling as you take in these words. The signals of your soul have been calling you for a long time, and now you've finally paused to listen. That simple decision to pay attention is the first real step toward a transformation far greater than you can imagine. So let me ask you this, after everything you've just discovered, are you going to close this tab and slip back into autopilot, pretending nothing has changed? Or will you have the courage to look at your life through these new eyes and finally do things differently? Because knowledge without action is just entertainment, and you didn't come here to be entertained. You came because something inside you is asking for real change, true transformation. What pattern will you start noticing tomorrow morning? Which automatic thought will you question for the first time? What moment of silence will you create in your chaotic routine so you can finally hear what your soul has been trying to tell you? Think about it. How many times in your life have you come across knowledge that truly had the power to change everything, and you let it slip by because it wasn't the right time yet, or because other priorities felt more urgent? The right time is now. The priority is you. And this inner awakening that began tonight will only keep growing if you nourish it with daily attention, consistent practice, and a willingness to look within, even when it feels uncomfortable. Will you be just another person who knows the truth but keeps living in illusion, or will you be that rare individual who actually applies it and experiences the freedom that comes from awakened awareness? Look, if you made it this far, it's because this message resonated somewhere deep inside you, and that's not a coincidence. This channel exists to walk with you on this journey of introspection and inner growth, to remind you of these truths whenever you forget, and to show you new angles of this deep awakening you're only beginning to experience. So subscribe now and turn on notifications, because what you discovered today is just the tip of the iceberg. In the next videos, we're going to dive even deeper into this sacred territory of consciousness. The question is, are you ready to truly wake up, or are you going to keep hitting snooze?